Yeah, what's good, y'all? It's your man, the Bigga P, and here to share my thoughts on last night's Showtime pay-per-view card. But before I get into the main card, I wanted to discuss the one fight preview card that was on show that aired on regular Showtime, Showtime Facebook, and Showtime YouTube. That was Donna Superman Stevenson going to make his 10th title defense as lineal WBC light heavyweight champion against Alexander Vosdik. It was a very the fight itself was a very it was very tense. I think to me it had a very tense atmosphere in the beginning. A lot of feeling out. Vosdik very wary of Superman's power in his left hand. There were two occasions where Vosdik was hurt by Superman, and then there was also another case where a referee ruled a slip. I think it was in the third round, where Vosdik knocked Superman down, but they say he stepped on the foot. But when you see the replay, it was clearly a knockdown. It was a quick, I think it was a quick right hand that knocked him down. So yeah, the fight was very tense. It was more or less Superman showing a little bit more stamina wise than he did in the Badu Jack fight, pressing the action. Vosdik being very economical, just being very careful until I think Superman like wore down in the 10th round, and by the 11th round, Vosdik exploded on him, ending the fight near the end of the 11th round, ending the fight suddenly and brutally with punctuated with a final right hand. So we have a new lineal WBC light heavyweight champion of the world. So kudos to him. Um, unfortunately there was a Superman apparently suffered some injuries, some very serious injuries in that fight. As of right now, I think he's stable, but for most of the day, in terms of the news, he was listed as critical condition. Because I know they said that he was able. Because I know by the time the live feed ended, he was on his stool and he was responding, but then after that, his condition deteriorated. So I think they put him in a medically induced coma for possible brain hemorrhage. And you don't want to ever see that happen to any fighter. No fighter deserves that. Boxing is a brutal sport. It's what it is. It's a gladiator sport, and these men are gladiators. They risk and they put their bodies on the line for our entertainment, for their well-being, for their lives and everything that. So, I mean, I know I've seen in other social medias and forums and stuff like that where people are bad mouthing Superman, even after knowing the fact that he was seriously injured in this fight. And it's like, you have to give that man his respects as a fighter. That's what he did. I mean, he did all this for us, the fans. So we hope for a quick recovery. Cause I'm sure, because usually with brain hemorrhages and head injuries of this type of injuries, um, you know, pretty much you're looking at the end of your career. With his Superman's case, he's 41 years old. He had a good run. I mean, he was briefly the longest reigning champion in boxing, with the unfortunate loss suffered by Triple G in rematch with Canelo. Um, but yeah, Superman had a great run as champion, and we should, regardless of what we think about his time, we should remember it as such. And prayers to him and his family for a speedy recovery and a full recovery at that. So yeah, we'll get to the main card of Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. The undercard fights. When they were announced, I was not very happy about it. I'll tell you flat out and down. The cards itself were terrible to me on paper. Um, and then the price was $74.99, and I'm just like, for what? What am I paying $74.99 for? What what on this card? Now you can say, oh, the main event. I'm an old school box fan. I don't pay that money for $74.90. Pay that money for watching the main event. So I spent most of the week trying to figure out what my options were, and then bam, the theater, Fathom Events, or decided they're going to be carrying it in the theaters again, and there were three that were in reasonable driving distance. So, I went instead of paying $75. I paid $13.25. Thank you, AdamTickets.com. So yeah, I took myself there. Because the Vozdek and Vozdek Stevenson fight, I was watching on my phone in the car because I wasn't sure if the theater was going to be showing it on the screen, but I didn't want to take a chance since it was free anyways on the YouTube. So I was watching that before I actually went in. The first fight was Joe Hanks versus Joe Joyce. I think this is probably the only. This was the only pay-per-view fight, undercard fight I had no problems with at all. And the reason why I didn't have any problems with it is because Joe Joyce has 6 pro fights. It's good to give someone of that nature some exposure. Now, Joe Hanks, I wasn't really impressed. On paper, I was just like, wasn't really interested. But at least that I could understand. The fight itself was quick and brutal. Joe Hanks first was tagging the shit out of Joe Joyce. He kept a jab in his face, and basically he didn't find Joe Joyce too difficult to hit. But Joe Joyce, he marched forward. He walked right through him, and basically he ended the fight with a left hook. It was quick and efficient and brutal. Not too brutal, but it was brutal enough. So all I can say about that Joe Joyce is I know he's like 33 and he has 6 professional fights, and then he has the World Series of Boxing fights. But I would say don't rush him too much. I think he still needs a little bit more seasoning. And then the second fight was Luis Ortiz versus Travis Kaufman. Again, I didn't think much of this fight either. Personally, for me, this fight was PBC on FS1 or PBC on balance quality to me. I figure if you're going to have a Luis Ortiz fight, have him fight someone a little bit on his level, at least. No disrespect to Travis Kaufman, but like I said, he hadn't done anything for me to even be interested for me to even see him on a pay-per-view. The last fight I saw him was his loss to Amir Mansour. Surprisingly, this fight was a lot more spirited than I thought it would be. Ortiz put him down 3 times in the fight. Kaufman kept on coming, though. His offense wasn't offensive. His offense wasn't offensive at all. He wasn't too effective. But he made an effort. He tried. He tried to blast it. I think at the first, he wasn't. Realized you're not going to beat. He wasn't going to beat Ortiz, but he tried to last the distance. But the 10th round, he got in trouble again and got battered, and the ref was like, "Nah, bro, you're done for the day." So Ortiz, he got his win. He got a stoppage. Kaufman probably raised his stock just a little bit, going to the final with Ortiz. So I wouldn't be surprised if he'll probably get like another main event shot on PBC Bounce or FS1 in the future. Of course, Ortiz now is possibly patiently playing the winning game to see what's going to happen with the current heavyweight champions. And then so the co-main event was Jarrett Hurd, who was making his first appearance after the absolutely brutal Fight of the Year candidate he had with Erislandy Lara back in April. And then shortly after the fight, he had surgery to correct a shoulder issue. Facing Jason Welborn. Jason Welborn, I never really heard of before, but however, he was coming down from middleweight to light middleweight, super middleweight, super welter, whatever you want to call it. Welborn was pretty much a big underdog in this fight. Surprisingly, this fight was more competitive than it had any right to be. Welborn, a couple things I noticed. Usually with Hurd has typically looked like an absolute has looked like several weight divisions above 154 come fight night. I mean, I'm talking about maybe as big as a cruiser. And then this time he actually looked like he rehydrated somewhat normally. You know, I mean, he was he was well in the light heavyweight limit. I mean, he was like a half pound shy of 20 pounds, you know, give or take. And frankly, how he actually boils himself down to that weight is beyond me. But that's for another conversation. Um, Hurd didn't look too good in this fight. Um, Basically, the bully got bullied by Wellborn. I mean, Wellborn, for whatever it was, just was catching him with all these shots, man. It was just, it was, he rocked him up on the ropes. Like he took the fight to Hurd, um, for as long as it lasted. I mean, the fight only lasted 4 rounds, but Wellborn was real. I mean, at times, like he got him in trouble. I think he got him in some slight trouble in the 3rd round. He busted his lip and everything like that, and I was like, this is crazy. But in the 4th round, I think Hurd decided to turn it up, throw some punches, and then it was a body shot that ended the night. Now, what was weird about this is Wellborn looked like he could actually get up from it, but he made no effort, and that was kind of disappointing because I think the theater that I was in, the audience was in it. It was in it because was very spirited in his challenge of this. So you know, Wellborn probably will, you know, got a little prestige for this, and if I was Hurd, because I felt got tagged a little bit too much by this guy, I would really try to work on his defense because, you know, most of the time, you know, Hurd does take plenty of shots, but he's bigger. He's bigger than most of the guys in this division. And I know they had the face off with Charlo, and you can see the size advantage was apparent with both of them. Like, he has a size advantage, but you know, eventually you can't expect to walk through everyone's firepower. And Wellborn, for him, luckily for Wellborn, you know, for him, Wellborn only has 7 KOs. So he wasn't packing a lot of offensive firepower in the first place, but he has to understand that he probably can't keep doing that. But hey, but you know, it was his first fight back since the Laura fight, so you know, got cut him some slack, you know. So that's what's good. So, you know, that's hopefully he learns from it. Now the main event. The main event: Deontay Wilder, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, versus Tyson Fury, the lineal light heavyweight champion of the world, as he beat the man who beat the man, which is Vlad Klitschko. But he never lost his belt tonight due to his personal issues, depression, food, drugs, you know, the whole nine. The whole nine. So this was his 3rd fight after coming back after 2.5 years, ballooning up under 400 pounds. 400 pounds, and you know, cutting down to like 255. I think that was his official weight. So he had come a long way to challenge for Deontay's belt. Was making, I think, his 8th title defense, going for an 8th straight knockout. On paper, I wasn't expecting anything spectacular. I was expecting a low struggle, but I was expecting the Wilder to take out a version of Fury that I thought was pretty deteriorated from what I perceived as his issues, his abuse of his body. I was completely wrong about this fight. Some of my thoughts about this fight: Fury's stock went up, really went up. Wilder's stock went down. Fury, to me, controlled the fight. His head movement, his jabs, his counter jabs, like he basically, I mean, the herky jerky movement. I mean, it was all these things that drove Wilder absolutely crazy, and it had Wilder never really adjusted to style. I mean, he kept on throwing. I mean, he in the first couple of 5 rounds, he was absolutely swinging. You know, it was like left hook, right hand. You know, there wasn't a lot of variation, you know, and he tried to move forward, and he ended up looking really silly at times, and it was like, and really amateur. And you see this, and you're like, this is probably, it was coming. I mean, if you watch some of Wilder's fights, you'd see there were fights where, where Wilder had a little struggle, but his power bailed him out. And in this fight, it didn't happen right away like the other ones. Like the other ones, it took some time. In the ninth round, though, the first knockdown was scored off of what I perceived was off balance, as Fury was bent over. I think Wilder managed to catch him, I think, behind the ear, and then like a left hook that knocked him down. And it didn't seem like Tyson Fury was hurt from that one. And he got up and he proceeded to hand out another boxing lesson. The second knockdown, however, there was absolutely outstanding. It was a right cross as Fury was bent over, and as he was falling, I mean, it was a full vintage Wilder right cross. And then as he was falling, a left hook caught him as he was falling. And, the theater that I was in absolutely erupted because we were like, everyone's like, Wilder had to put him away. And then Fury Fury was out cold for like 5 seconds. I'm thinking to myself, I'm waiting for the referee to go. Is like, I was really waiting for the referee to wave it off, but he was like, he's not waving it off. And then I see Fury, like at the count of 5, sit up, get up to his feet. And so I continued the fight. And then Wilder went for the kill. And as he was going for the kill, he got hit with a counter right hand and the left hand. And then, bam, he was in trouble. And then Wilder gassed. And I was just like, oh my God, this is outstanding. Like, this is crazy. This might be like a round of the year candidate. And they tried, man. They really, really tried. But the effort, but it was too late, for Wilder. He tried to put him away. It's like he really, he let his nuts hang in that round. The problem, the controversy to me happened is like after that fight, I thought Fury won this fight easily. At least it was like a 9-3 with the knockdowns. It would be 115 to 111 for Fury. It was an easy win. Now imagine my surprise when I heard the same score from one of the judges, but it didn't. He didn't score it for Fury. He scored it for Wilder, and I was just like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And then the second score was 114-112 for Fury, which I thought was a little bit too close to my liking, but at least it was for Fury. And then the other score was a 113-113. In that card, it was pretty much the Wilder, the knockdown in the 12th round saved Wilder's title. It was crazy. The theater was in pretty much was like bullshit. This is bullshit, 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 bullshit. Everyone. And I thought, and I was the same. It was bullshit. I didn't think that Wilder won this fight. I thought he took a loss and he got schooled. Outside of the 2 knockdowns he scored, and I think that put a damper on the fight and how great that fight was to watch. And I wasn't expecting because I don't necessarily mix Tyson Fury and excitement and say, okay, that's going to be something I need to watch. But it was a hell of a fight. And now that I know they're talking rematch, and now both of them were going on Anthony Joshua, who holds the 3 heavyweight belts. And I would definitely love to see this again, if possible. Or, Fury goes after Joshua, see if he can actually see what he can do. Because I think now, like I said, Fury's stock is high as it is. And it was just that type of fight. It was outstanding. It was outside of the judging, and that judge, the 151-11 should for Wilder should never really judge a fight again. So yeah, I mean those are my thoughts on the card, and I mean I'm possibly gonna. I mean I think I have my copy somewhere, and like I said, that knockdown, it's mind-boggling to me how Tyson Fury got up from a pure kill shot and got to his feet clear-eyed as day. because that he should have been out cold. So I mean that is absolutely something for real. But yep. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and till next time, peace.